Google title of my presentation, first result in Google will tell you that 40% of the startups who are self-proclaimed AI startups doesn't use AI at all. Reasons why they self-proclaim as an AI startups are multiple. First of all, AI became a buzzword for multiple years already. Funding in AI startups rise almost every year. And maybe these startups think that it's hard to distinguish real AI startups with the fake ones. I'm not sure about if that is the case. But anyway, there are many startups, AI startups so-called, who end up with the products without AI. And I have a personal experience of going through this journey, and I will tell you it today to you. Before Lupi AI, me and my co-founders sold the EdTech company. We started in 2012, expanded in 3 European Union countries with hundreds of thousands of users, and in 2018 sold it. But what should someone do when he sells a company in his 20s? Maybe go to the beach and drink cocktails while watching at sunsets, or just start another company, or maybe both, I don't know. Anyway, in 2019, my co-founders and I started Lupi AI, and we were building the tool for teachers to save their time, because teachers are spending up to 7 hours per week on preparing and marking student work. And this part of their job is quite monotonic, while human involvement doesn't add any important value. With our tool, we were getting this 7 hours per week down to half hour per week. So we could save up to 26 hours per month to every teacher. So it was a platform where teachers could create, manage, and grade homeworks. We were giving them the recommendations. For example, we could say that George is underperforming in particular topic. Maybe he needs additional attention. Please keep in mind. Or we could say even that class is underperforming. Maybe this topic should be explained once again, etc. On the student side, it was a place to do the homeworks and also do the personalized tests thanks to our AI. So there were important benefits, starting with time saving for teachers, but additionally personalization for students, recommendations for teachers, and data for schools. So we started in August of 2019, and already during the autumn of that year, we won the grant from JITA. We accepted by the Rockstart AI Accelerator in Netherlands. And at the end of the year, start of the 2020, we were already building the product for the Dutch market. But actually, that's the actual slide from my deck from January of 2020. We had a great plans, partnership with Dutch publishers, launching the product in the Netherlands, and funding at the end of the year. But as Mike Tyson famously said, everybody has a plan until they got punched in the mouth. So as all of us, we had to change our plans, right? Literally, I got back to Tbilisi from Amsterdam with the last plane and went down directly to the 2-week quarantine. So I had 2 weeks to think about how we should change our plans, right? During the time, lockdowns were already starting in Georgia. Ministry of Education declared that schools will move online. They offered them all video tools to organize the lessons. But what about homeworks? They offered Microsoft Teams as a homework tool as well. And I don't know if you ever tried to use Microsoft Teams for the homework creation, but it's not easy. So we saw an opportunity here. And during my time in quarantine, we are Zooming with our team. And starting from 30th of March, in 11 days, we translated the platform into Georgian, adjusted it to current demand on the market, and on 11th of April, we launched tvschool.g. In a week, it went viral. After a month, there were more than 40,000 teachers and 320,000 pupils using the platform. And actually, it's like 70% of teachers and 60% of students in Georgia. Already in the end of May, our daily active users were more than 100,000. So it was a huge success. Okay, and there were multiple reasons for that. First of all, our platform was very easy to use. We had a prepared content for teachers, so literally they could create the content homeworks in a couple of clicks. And we built the feedback loop from the day one. So we listened feedback from the teachers, from the students, and acted very fast on that. So yeah, we were lucky. We were just in the right place, in the right time. And as you see, there's not AI in this list. While we loved our tech, we loved our personalization features, we actually added these features to the platform. We added like AI for the topic identification, etc. But no, not AI. Success was just the solution. TV School was just a solution for the real problem, and none of our users cared about what was under the hood. So that's the first lesson learned. Like, it's not so important to build an AI startup, but build the solution for your clients. If that's AI, that's good. But it doesn't answer the question why AI label is so important. Short answer on that is unfair advantages. So that's maybe very startup word. So let me first of all read you a quote from Warren Buffett. How many of you know who Warren Buffett is? Okay. So Mr. Buffett is the most successful investor of all time. His wealth is north to 100 billion right now, and he's in the top 10 of most wealthy persons on Earth for 30 or maybe 40 years already. So here is his quote. The key to investing is not assessing how much an industry is going to affect society or how much it will grow, but rather determining the competitive advantage of any given company and, above all, the durability of that advantage. So how it is connected to AI. Unfair advantages are durable competitive advantages. And there are multiple types of unfair advantages. Let me give you some examples here. For example, economies of scale is an unfair advantage. And classical example of that is Walmart or Amazon. As they grow larger, their marginal costs go lower and lower. So it's very high barrier to enter that market. Or we can say about network effects, when the value of the network increases while new members are added to the network. We are joining Facebooks or WhatsApps because all of our friends are there already, and friends who are not will join the Facebooks because we are already there as well. Or switching costs. When you have all of your files on Dropbox or all of your CRM data on Salesforce. So it's very hard to switch to another CRM tool or cloud, right? Or maybe brand, and I will not bother you about the examples of Apple and Harley Davidson. AI can be one of this kind of unfair advantage, and maybe even more. Because if you have enough data so that your AI engine will work, then you can give the right results to your customers. Let's assume, for example, Google, right? Google is using AI for maybe a decade already. So because of their enormous amount of data, they can generate great results for us. And while we are using Google in this process, we are giving them more and more data. So they are kind of a monopoly in this data, and they are getting even bigger monopolies because of that. So if AI startup can generate this kind of data, first from some source at the beginning, but then because of this data, generate the right results to their customers, it can be a really unfair advantage, which can direct you to the success. But it's just big data. If you don't have data, even if you have the best machine learning engineers in your team, they cannot create the results out of thin air. So to distinguish if AI startup is a real AI startup or not, first question should be what data they are using or what access to data they have. Just to mention, maybe it's not so important, but still, not all data are equal. There are startups who have the access to data, they are using AI algorithms, but still they cannot get this unfair advantage on the market. Example of that can be hard authentication. Because of COVID, we are all used to face recognition from different tools, right? All of these tools are provided by the AI startups who use data for face recognition, document recognition, and still it is a very crowded place right now in the world. We have 2 Georgian startups actually doing the same, but still it's not a huge competitive advantage for them because many have the access to the same data and they can generate similar results. So yeah, if you have data and AI algorithm, doesn't mean that you for sure will have the advantage on the market. So just to summarize, it is most important thing to build a solution for the problem of the users. If it's AI, that's great, but it's not so important. Most important part for attracting the money from investors is to have the unfair advantage on the market or to win the competition in general, not just AI. There are other types of unfair advantages and startups and companies should focus on them. And most important part in AI startups is data, not AI algorithms. If you have access to data or can generate data somehow, you can probably find right AI engineers to build a solution from that. Thank you so much for your attention and looking forward for your questions.
Thank you, Irakli. I think this was a great teaser for the 5th day of DataFest that we will have. So I hope that everyone interested in such topics will come back to us on Saturday because we will have a whole another day dedicated to AI. Thank you very much for giving your perspective.
Thank you.
Do we have questions related to AI in the audience?
Or I am just in a bad day for speaking about this in terms of audience, because it's very startup related.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, Irakli.
Hi.
So I want to ask for you, what is the biggest difference between so-called AI startups, not AI startups, and real AI startups? The core difference, maybe.
Yeah, sure. Actually, there are multiple questions to distinguish real AI startups from the fake ones. And actually there are like AI startups start with no AI for sure. You might have just a plan to be an AI startup and that's okay for sure. But to answer your question, most important question is that what access to data they have and how they want to take advantage of this data to create the solution. Because there are many cases when standard algorithms, advanced one, but still standard in terms of like how it is, they are built, can generate better results than AI algorithms. Because AI algorithms is somehow related to economies of scale as well. Before getting to some threshold, results from AI algorithms are not so good because you don't have enough data. So basically, demonstration might be the great test, but first of all, demonstration from the data they have access to, and especially in case of B2B AI startups, you should just ask them to demonstrate the same solution on the data, for example, you have in your company or something. Yep. Thank you.
Hi, Irakli. We have a question from Slack participant.
Sure.
Investors will likely detect that the startup is not using any AI algorithms or methods. So why do they still have an advantage over other startups in terms of funding?
That's a great question. Yes, still, one of the reasons they are still 40% of so-called fake AI startups is that they just plan to become an AI startup, so to use the AI in the future. And if they have the right team in place and the right vision how they can generate data which they will use in the future, that might answer the question. Because I don't know any like credible investor who cannot distinguish fake AI startups from the real ones. So that's for sure true. But yeah, still, if you can demonstrate that, okay, we have a plan how we can move from just a solution. We are, for example, some human beings can do some job as an fake AI, but they have the vision and direction to become the AI startup. That's quite okay. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Irakli. So if I got it right, you went into the Dutch market with your AI product.
Can you repeat that?
So you were into the Dutch market with your AI product, yes? And I want to ask, which problem did you provide the solution, and was it a real AI product? Thank you.
Can I repeat the question if I got it correctly? So we were building the product for the Dutch market, and yeah, are we the fake or real AI startup? Yes. That was the question, right?
Yes, and also what problem, because you said that you first need to focus on the problem, and what problem you provided the solution for.
Got it. So yeah, we were the real one. So for us, main product for Lupi AI was the platform where teachers could generate homeworks for pupils in multiple clicks. So we were partnering with publishing houses who had the content, and thanks to our AI solution, we were building contents and homeworks from this data. So data provider for us, we are the publishers who has this enormous amount of data in terms of education. And with our AI algorithms, we were identifying the topics and creating the automated homeworks. On the other side, we had the personalization, which actually can be built by the advanced algorithms. That's how we started. And after generating millions of data points, we moved to AI when actually AI solution outperformed our traditional algorithm. Yeah.
If we don't have any more questions, then we can move on to our break. Thank you very much for your talk.
Thank you. Bye.